What's up, guys, and welcome to an all-new episode of the Superfriends broadcast, brought to you today by our friends over at Loot Crate. You can save 10% off any subscription just by using our exclusive link, trylootcrate.com/hybridnetwork, and once you get there, punching in the promo code BRIDGE10. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you enjoy. What's up, guys? CJ here, and welcome back to another all-new episode of the Superfriends podcast. It has been so incredibly long since we've done one of these. I'm joined, of course, as always, by DC Lucal.
What's up, guys? It's funny, we were expecting to come back in a very different fashion.
Yes, but, that's been delayed. That event has been delayed.
It's being pushed back to December.
We expected three more people. Now we have one less.
Exactly. We're not quite doing it right. And of course, as you can hear him, we're joined also by Tim, and it is Tim's first time ever on a podcast. We just came back after the month break and decided, you know what, we'll give this Tim guy a shot. So how you doing, Tim?
Woo, bringing it back.
Bringing it back. See, that's I made
the
that joke
that will never die.
I said at NYCC I would bring that back. And I'm a man of my word. That is...
Y'all didn't hear it, but he said it.
Y'all didn't hear it. You'll just have to take my word for it.
That disturbance you felt in the force with CJ telling us that at NYCC.
You felt a disturbance that a bad joke was coming.
Yes.
But that would actually be a great force ability to have. Speaking of bad jokes, we have a lot of great stuff to talk about today.
Yeah!
Including...
segue.
Thank you. Papa bless. I'm just praying to Will right now. We have a ton of stuff to actually talk about coming out of the break. We're going to have a massive TV roundup segment in a little bit. We've got some great viewer questions, and we have some information about the Batman solo film and when it starts production that we are just chomping at the bit to talk about. But first, we've got to start off with something actually pretty massive, or potentially pretty massive, and that is another reported Justice League plot leak. Actually, I think this is like the first major one I've seen for Justice League. I think, BVS and Suicide Squad both had 10,001 plot leaks and rumors and different reports. But this is the first one I've seen for Justice League. Have you guys seen any for...
No, it's the first, full, plot synopsis leak for, the entirety of the movie. But, all of those different, supposed leak roundups, they always included, Justice League and, the supposed future films as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is really interesting. This is really in-depth, and so because it's so in-depth, I'm not going to go read it line by line, but I am going to try and skim through and get the important bits, which is going to be a task, let me tell you, so bear with us here.
The important bit is anyways.
Yeah, anyways, about
That's
makes
my
a joke
takeaway.
About... There
a
you
central
go.
theme of the movie, anyways.
And so, I'll probably stop at a couple of points and get some guys, some guys. We'll just man on the street, I'll call my roommate in here, ask my neighbor what he thinks of it. No, I'll get these guys' opinion on different stuff going on in the movie, reportedly, throughout this skim fest. Allegedly, that's a good word for it. To set this up, though, this guy says... Go ahead. What was the adverb? I'm in the market for good adverbs. I'm not sure why this is so funny.
Just go on with the plot. Skim down. Let's go.
Just go.
I can only assume they're playing a drinking game where it's if I talk over someone and then say go ahead.
No, it was it was you said go ahead, and there's just a 5-second pause.
We're rusty, guys. Take it easy on us in the comments. It's been only 5 weeks.
Oh my god, I'm crying.
And maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm glad I can bring joy into Lucal's life.
It's been so long since I've talked to you guys.
I know, it's been forever. But so this plot here, so to set this up, this guy says that he worked on Justice League. He can't say what he was doing. He's not a part of the crew that was in Iceland, but he is working on the movie. He could be, a coordinator or something on set. But he says that he actually works for an outside company. He doesn't work for WB. And they're based in the UK, and he got called in to work on this. This is one of the first bigger films that he's done, and so he says here, he prefaced it, he's a DC fan. He honestly didn't believe it when they were saying that they were going to be working on this film. So take it with a grain of salt. I highly recommend you check it out at the link in the description below. Read it for yourself. And I'll mention why at the end that I think it's so important to do that. Of course, unless you want to avoid spoilers for this completely, in which case, check out the timestamps. Just go ahead and right to the next topics. But okay, you guys ready for this? You guys ready for these plot leaks?
My body is ready for anyways.
Oh
Fresh
boy.
scoops.
Tim, you braced? You ready to go?
Yep.
All right. That's sounded very hesitant.
Start.
All right. So, reportedly, the film opens kind of as has been reported with a kind of prologue showing humans, Atlanteans, and Amazonians fighting off this army of parademons. And they've come through from Apocalypse through what I assume is a boom tube. He refers to it as a travel portal. And the big thing about that is that it's the mother boxes that are creating the portals. And so Darkseid is actually basically making his way to Earth. He's about to come through the portal when the armies of Man and Atlantis and Amazonia, Themyscira is the word that I briefly forgot, managed to use the mother boxes to close the portal. And you only see Darkseid's kind of shadow, his silhouette. So they, these combined armies in Lord of the Rings fashion kind of fight off the rest of these armies. The humans bury their mother box in the woods. The Atlanteans and the Amazonians keep theirs with them. And then, bam, flash forward several thousand years, and Bruce is still having nightmares about, the nightmare world from Batman v Superman.
The Injustice world.
The Injustice world, essentially.
Yes.
Lex Luthor, this is one thing that doesn't make sense. Lex Luthor is released from Arkham Asylum because he was declared insane. I'm sure that's
I think
a
it's
typo.
a typo. You meant sane.
Yeah. As you'll listen on, this thing is riddled with such typos.
Yes, so I'm going to point those out sometimes. It's implied that he threatened the psychologist, or he somehow coerced somebody into getting him out of there. And so this is actually one of my favorite scenes in this whole plot, because Batman visits Luthor and gets information about the scout ship that he created Doomsday with, and the threat that he talked about at the end of Batman v Superman. And Lex is actually completely serious and comes off as less insane. And he doesn't have any of the quips or laughs or mannerisms that he had, and he's completely not afraid of Batman, which is interesting. He's just, and I'm going to read this too because I like it. Luthor is just sitting by the fire with his legs crossed and a drink in his hand, and he's still bald. And basically, this is another. He looks at the painting that he was fucking around with for the entirety of Batman v Superman, and then basically we jump forward again, lots of jumping in this movie. If you thought that was going to end after Batman v Superman, no. We jump forward, and Bruce is actually working in the small fishing village we know Aquaman is from. And basically, it's weird because it's this fishing village, but no one is fishing. And he asks a waitress in a diner why, and she doesn't respond. And that night, he notices the water around the island is going crazy. And then the next day, he and a bunch of people are picking up a bunch of fish off the beach, including Arthur Curry, who I guess is kind of their incognito. Basically, then Bruce has realized that this dreadlocked Khal Drogo-looking motherfucker is probably the man he's looking for. Makes his speech, asks Arthur to join him. He refuses, and this is kind of where we get to some scenes that we've seen in the trailers. Bruce is talking to Diana about that, as we saw in the trailer. He said no. And then Barry shows up, believe it or not, and kind of makes some quips. And then we cut to the flashback of Bruce recruiting Barry, and then back to the present, where they're going to find Cyborg now. And they sneak in to find Cyborg. They're kind of shocked by his appearance. And he asks if they're with the government, and Bruce says, and I quote, better. They reveal that they're the Justice League. But Cyborg refuses this. He refuses the offer because, and as this says, Bruce doesn't understand how Victor feels. And so Diana tries to work on him a little bit, and he kind of opens up a little bit, says he didn't ask for this, but still refuses the offer. Barry then asks, he then asks if Cyborg looked like the Terminator, which is ironic, I guess, as this guy notes, because Joe Morton, the guy that plays Silas Stone, was Miles Dyson in Terminator. And basically that night things start happening. Parademons kidnap several scientists from Star Labs, including Silas Stone. And this is where we get the scene where the Jim Gordon photo is from on the roof of the GCPD next to the bat signal. And Flash, Batman, and Wonder Woman all show up. Gordon kind of explains the situation, but these flying things took scientists, and out of nowhere, Cyborg shows up and reveals that his dad, Silas Stone, was taken as well. And Wonder Woman reveals that they're parademons and says there's got to be a nest. There's usually a nest. And that is where we see another scene from the trailer, that abandoned tunnel. And we've heard about the fight scene there from the Justice League set visits. And this is where we first see the Flying Fox in use. Flash runs there, but Batman uses this airship, which is undescribed if it's like a helicarrier or something like that, or if it's just a blimp. And you kind of use this time for more, I guess, character building. Batman asks Wonder Woman, how she knew what the creatures were. And, Wonder Woman's really old, but, her mother's also older, a lot older, and the Atlanteans, the Themyscirans, have been around for a long time. Let's just say that. Basically, and this is the weirdest... I'm going to take a stop here before we kind of get to one of the weirder parts of the script. What do you guys think about this so far? Kind of the setup for the team coming together. Luke, you sound like you have an opinion.
The entirety of my opinion is based on just, I don't think this is true at all, but
yeah.
At the heart of it, I mean, just Batman going around recruiting people is what I assumed the movie was, and it does seem like it basically is that.
Yeah.
I'm taking a little bit of umbrage with the fact that Victor basically is, his response might just be sort of the Valley Girl, you don't understand me. How about more of, I'm a fucking robot, leave me alone? Like,
Batman just
instead of description, it sounded like the Deus Ex response of, I didn't ask for this.
Yeah, basically. I didn't ask for this. Like, no, I'm a fucking robot, leave me alone, you idiot.
Leave me alone.
I don't.
So, Tim, do you kind of have the same vibes?
Yeah, well, there's nothing here so far is what makes me think that the script isn't true. It's mostly stuff that comes in towards the end of this description that we'll get to, but based on what they've said so far with this, it sounds really flashback heavy for no reason, because Flash is already on the team when you first see him, and then it immediately flashes back to them recruiting him.
Which is kind of silly. I feel like, they could have just set that up. Maybe it's the first one of the first scenes of the movie. But, so, jumping back to this, they, of course, they're on their way to this nest thing. They find the parademon nest in this abandoned tunnel between Metropolis and Gotham. And they're attacked, but Batman summons this thing called the Nightcrawler, which is, I guess, another kind of more tactical Batmobile that... I guess is more all-terrain, I guess you could say. It climbs around. And then, but the parademons escape. They escape this attack using a travel portal, a big portal that's open for them. But the League follows them through to, guess where, but Apocalypse, where Steppenwolf is waiting for them with a mother box. And the League tries to fight him first. They fail. The Nightcrawler's destroyed. And Steppenwolf uses the mother box to shut the portal, but Flash, and this is another interesting thing, Flash uses his super speed to get them all back. Does he grab them and run them through the portal?
Probably.
Or does he somehow, tunnel through space-time? No. Whatever.
He probably just runs really fast through the portal based on this.
That's what I'm thinking. Batman also, here, and this comes big later, he manages to get a tracker onto one of the parademons. In this scene, where Steppenwolf is basically saying, sorry I didn't kill them, what should we do? It's revealed that Steppenwolf is Darkseid's brother, actually. And that the mother box that he has was taken from Krypton, and that Steppenwolf must go to Earth to retrieve the last 3 mother boxes, so that Darkseid and his army may take over the world, because, just like Krypton, their planet is doomed, and that's why Apocalypse looks the way it does. Steppenwolf opens another portal with the mother box to Earth and kind of invades with an army of parademons. The parademons then strike many parts of the world. They attack Themyscira and take the mother box from there. And they're on their way to attack Atlantis. And we get a little setup for Aquaman here. There seems like there's an issue, a little spat between him and Orm. That Mira and Volko,
which seems like it comes out of nowhere in the script, because if that's still going on under the sea, I have no idea why Aquaman's in that fishing village earlier on.
Exactly. Well, I think they're going to say is that fishing village is like where he's actually from, and he's just still providing for them.
I get,
or something like that.
yeah, I guess that could make sense for it, but it seems like weird to just like put in this political spat between Orm and Aquaman with these two other cameos just in the middle there. But it may very well be in the movie. We don't know.
Yep. So at this point, parademons break in, they steal the second mother box, and then they make their way to the surface onto a small island where Steppenwolf awaits with his spaceship pod thing. And they hand him the mother box, but Aquaman jumps out of this whirlpool with his trident, which is the first time in the movie that he actually has it in his hand. This is supposedly a badass shot from what he describes. It's a short fight. Steppenwolf owns his ass and is about to kill him when the League shows up in the Flying Fox and firing at him. More flash quips. Steppenwolf leaves with the mother box, and this is where Aquaman joins the team, and they all kind of regroup at the Batcave. This is where, Batman's like, we found you and saved your ass because I put a tracker on the parademons, which might lead us to the missing scientists. And then, suddenly, for some reason, the parademons aren't in Kansas, Bruce reveals. And for reasons that are kind of left vague, they're digging up Clark's grave, and they break open his coffin and pull him out. Clark is actually just wearing a suit. I guess he's not buried in the Superman suit, but he has a beard and long hair. No mullet, though. Basically, they take the body back to an abandoned Ace Chemicals factory where Steppenwolf and the scientists are headquartered, I guess. Steppenwolf mentions that for reasons, this is literally the explanation we get, his brother wants the body. They tie it into the Codex somehow, like his DNA. There's something in his DNA that Darkseid wants. And then, basically, they attack. Steppenwolf escapes because Cyborg kind of rushes in. Steppenwolf, of course, escapes back to Apokolips, as I said. The League beat up some parademons, save the scientists, and are shocked to find that Superman is actually alive. He's still breathing. He's not dead. He remembers what Batman remembers what Luthor did with Doomsday from the scout ship, and says, and I quote, "We need to wake him up." There's a little spat here between Flash and Cyborg. Basically, Flash calls Cyborg immature, and then basically they are evacuating what I assume is Metropolis. While Batman is getting Superman's body to the scout ship. Basically, they get him onto the ship. They kind of have him in that regeneration chamber. And then, anyway, Steppenwolf arrives and starts to fight them. Basically, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and the Flash start to fight them off at the Superman Memorial while Steppenwolf kind of watches. Basically, then a parademon enters the scout ship to steal Superman's body. This is another cool scene, apparently. Batman fights it off. So at this point, we realize that Steppenwolf's axe, his hand, on the handle of his axe, it's like a machine that allows him to control the parademons. Basically, Wonder Woman notices it, and that becomes part of their plan to beat them. So we're kind of getting towards the final battle here. Final battle. Any thoughts so far on what we've kind of discussed? Any more thoughts on some of the plot here, or do you just want to power on through to the end and give your final thoughts then?
I mean, the ending is where a lot of the big stuff kind of comes out. So far, it's just
the middle portion that we went through here, nothing really happens in it.
Exactly, which is kind of making me a little worried, but.
Yeah, I mean, Steppenwolf is Darkseid's lackey. I mean, no change there. Doesn't really matter if he's his uncle or his brother, so
just wait. Okay, Batman is about to be killed by another parademon when out of nowhere he's saved by Superman, who smiles at him and asks if he needs a hand. Superman's clothes, his suit is all torn, but he finds one of the remaining Kryptonian Under Armour suits on the scout ship, which, as some people have noticed, in Man of Steel, those Under Armour suits were black. And that's where he's wearing the black suit with the dark silver kind of symbol. And Superman joins the fight. Basically, they end up fighting Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf is holding his own against the entire League, but the fight ends when Aquaman takes the device, hands it off to the Flash, while Cyborg reprograms it to turn the parademons on Steppenwolf, and they weaken him. While Cyborg opens a portal to pull Steppenwolf back to Apokolips. Eventually, there's kind of a good team moment, like teamwork, where Superman punches him towards the portal. Wonder Woman, I guess, slices him with her sword, and Aquaman impales him and then like throws him through the portal. Basically, Cyborg closes it. The fight's over. Batman and Superman have a funny moment about who actually won their fight. Superman says, "I let you win." They shake hands. And then there's a montage of what the heroes do next. Aquaman goes back to Atlantis with his mother box. Wonder Woman returns to Themyscira for the first time in 100 years. Cyborg has a conversation with his dad. Batman gives Flash a new suit. And Superman arrives at the Kent farm and shortly thereafter marries Lois. And this is a big scene coming up. We cut to Supes carrying Lois into their apartment where General Swanwick is waiting. It's kind of like, what the fuck are you doing here? And then after a short conversation, Swanwick actually reveals himself to be none other than the Martian Manhunter and tells Superman that a powerful being known as Brainiac is coming to Earth for him. And then the mid-credits scene is Lex hiring Deathstroke to kill Batman, which kind of sets up the Batman solo film. Apparently there's a lot of other things. Like there are a couple more Gordon scenes this guy mentioned. No Joker cameo. There are a lot of scenes this guy notes that he did not work on, so this is a very rough outline. Generally, what are your guys' final thoughts here? I know this is probably for people listening. There's no one listening. They've shot themselves because of how boring it must have been. But go ahead. And what were you guys' thoughts about that? About the whole thing? Luke, we'll start with you.
I should say, first and foremost, I know this is fake because Superman saves Batman with a smile. That would never happen. This is not my DCEU. This is fake.
This is fake.
But,
what kind of hippie bullshit is this?
Yeah, exactly. What is this?
Smile?
This isn't the Zack Snyder deep, thought-provoking shit that I've grown up on. But again, this all just seems like generally safe assumptions based on what we've seen trailer-wise and what people have said. But I mean, it goes ball to the walls insane in like the last part with like the introduction of Martian Manhunter, where hey, if you didn't know, this guy probably watched Supergirl, and then Lex Luthor hiring Deathstroke to kill Batman. For what reason? They'll just say you'll find out later.
He stood awkwardly in the shadows in his house.
He threatened him.
That's cause for alarm. But I mean, I don't think this is true. It just seems like generally a safe outline based on what someone has heard. Yeah. So I don't really know what else to say besides that. I don't think it's real.
I feel the same way. Yeah, basically about that. That scene at the end with. Is the general guy like the main contact that Lois had in like Man of Steel and
Harry Lennox?
Because it really just seems like that part is just straight ripped out of Supergirl with Hank Henshaw.
It kind of is. I'm not gonna lie to you. You guys are both kind of spot on there.
Makes me wonder why he didn't go to Superman before. Telling him about Brainiac coming.
Or why he didn't use his powers in Man of Steel to stop the Kryptonians.
Yeah, well, I guess this is either A, they didn't think that far ahead, or B, this is made up, which I'm going to go with.
Well, to be fair, it could be not thinking that far ahead, because we also have Batman going to Metropolis as Bruce Wayne and not Batman. In BVS.
I mean, the entirety of Batman v Superman is very much akin to them not thinking that far ahead. But
no doubt.
I think it's mostly made up.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I don't necessarily 100%. I'm not 100% sold on this. I think it could be believable. I think it's an interesting blend of what we've heard before and then a lot of stuff that we haven't heard before. There are a lot of things where this guy, he's just saying things that we haven't heard. And that doesn't necessarily make it true, but kind of the way he's describing it to me almost sounds like it's not someone that put a lot of thought and a lot of unnecessary detail into this. He's not over, unless he's kind of got, kind of even, keeled himself off of doing a lot of over, scrutinizing over like all these intricate little details. It's kind of interestingly to me, it's like a weird blend between skimming over like a bunch of plot and getting into some nice detail. I don't know if I'm making sense to anybody. It's in tone wise, the way he's describing things, it sounds much more to me like it could be real. It sounds like if I watched a movie drunk and then you asked me to describe it to you afterwards, I think it would sound something like this.
I mean, it's
no offense to this
plausible.
guy.
Yeah, like you said, I'm not like 100% sold on it, especially with the stuff at the ending. But could very well be happening. We don't know.
Exactly. I mean, it kind of I don't love a lot of the ways, like, it's the setting up at the end kind of seems very, very heavy-handed. The Martian Manhunter thing especially, like, I don't feel like we need to tell Superman, it's like, oh, Brainiac's coming. It's like, thanks. Lex Luthor hiring Deathstroke to kill Batman makes some sense to me, actually. Out of the list of, like, who would hire Deathstroke to kill Batman, so Deathstroke would be the villain in the Solo movie. It kind of makes sense there.
How do we justify Deathstroke showing up in the Batman movie? Let's have one of the villains that we already have hire him.
It kind of feels like
we'll cross that bridge when we get
because
to it.
If Superman couldn't kill Batman, surely this random guy with an eye patch can.
Surely another person with barely any powers can do the same.
Surely
can do better.
He is a Terminator.
He is that we make a Terminator joke. We've got the Terminator appearing in this movie. It's going to be great, guys.
It's all connected in its own way. If you believe it's connected, it's connected.
You just triggered Luke, and he doesn't know why. But he's just somewhere sitting there, like, triggered. But
we're talking about DC stuff.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that on the Marvelite tomorrow, I'm sure. But that is the plot leak. Think of it what you will. Let us know in the comment section down below if you believe it's real or not. But moving on to the next topic. Speaking of Batman, the solo film, The Batman, working title, we know when it's going to begin production thanks to Joe Manganiello, Deathstroke, the Terminator himself. And that guy says that he's beginning production on that in spring of 2017. Now, this is kind of big for a couple of reasons, of course. Usually, more often than not, because it kind of gives us an idea of when the movie might come out. Specifically, I think the last 3 DC movies, as I mentioned in the HNN, as I mentioned in the HNN on Tuesday, the last 3 DC movies had a 16 to 17 month from start of production to release date window. And so that puts this right at the rumored release date of October 2018. So spring 2017, says Manganiello. What do you guys think about that? Tim, any thoughts, any opinions on springtime for Deathstroke?
I mean, nothing really major on that. Like, we know when the film's roughly gonna be starting, so I guess it's cool to have that with it, but I don't know how much that tells us beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is interesting. It's just the smokescreen that Affleck, I guess, is putting up on this is kind of the most interesting part to me, because he's still saying it's like, oh, we're still working on a script, we're still working on a budget. I say the Batman working title now because he's insisted that it's just a working title, and he made a very big stink in an interview about how he just said that they were calling it the Batman while they were writing it, and everyone assumed that was the title. So the Batman working title. Luke, what are your thoughts on that production date?
I'd be happy if that was the production date. I mean, it's not there's not too much I can glean from this. I don't know, because again, like you said, Affleck is constantly saying like, "Oh, we're still working on it. We're still doing a script and all that." And then here comes Deathstroke just saying, "Yeah, it's about June or spring 2017." So, I mean,
there you go.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy could be wrong. I don't know. He kind of said it in reference to some other things. If you listen to the interview, he was like, "Oh, the Smurfs releases in April, and I begin production on the Batman in the spring as well." It's
wait, is he in the Smurfs?
I think so. I don't know why he
as Deathstroke.
Yes, Deathstroke in the Smurfs.
Deathstroke versus the
Smurfs. I thought it was supposed to be like, oh, the Smurfs are coming out this time. We can't have Batman compete with the Smurfs. He'd get creamed.
It might. What's funny is they kind of. I'm a little surprised they didn't rush to get this out sooner. Seeing like the reaction to Batman was really the best thing to come out of Batman v Superman. Like everyone was kind of like, okay, we were wrong about Ben Affleck. We'll admit that. But they kind of, it seems like they were like, Ben, we want you to direct this. We want you to really take the reins on this one. And he was like, well, I want to get it right. I don't want to rush it out. I'm going to take a lot of time on this and be very careful and very thorough. And, it's just a kind of an interesting.
And DC responded with, Meh.
Okay.
All right.
We'll see what
We're going to
happens.
set you up in Justice League. We're going to do part of your job for you. We're going to explain why Deathstroke is fighting you. And then this
And run
asshole
with that.
is going to spoil it on Reddit.
It's all part of the
Oh,
master
damn
plan.
him.
That's Zack Snyder. He's got some vision. He's got some foresight. But all right, so everybody got their thoughts out on the Batman?
Yeah, I
Pretty
guess.
Well, you just heard how Superman comes back in the Justice League plot leak, allegedly. Now let's talk a little bit about Superman on TV. So we're going to do our massive TV roundup here, starting, of course, with CW's Monday show, Supergirl, which I have just been massively enjoying so far in this young season. Tim, what have your thoughts been so far on Supergirl and specifically maybe Tyler Hoechlin's Superman?
No, yeah, I really like the first 2 episodes of Supergirl starting off, and I think Tyler Hoechlin did a good job. Like, my only issue with him is that, outside of him being on like the younger looking side, like his voice doesn't really mesh up for me with what I imagine with Superman. But I like the angle they went with him of him having been around for over 15 years because he was Superman back when he found Kara 15 years ago. And they have the whole he's been around the block type thing with the character, but still having elements of like the Clark Kent old school reporter using like the lickety split lines and stuff like that.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of interesting to me that with Hoechlin, and for better or for worse, like regardless of whether you like Henry Cavill and Man of Steel's portrayal of Superman and the way they've decided to do him in the DCEU, I don't see how you can't watch Supergirl and look at Tyler Hoechlin's Superman and not realize, I should say, that they just looked at the DCEU movies and were like, we're going to do the opposite of that. We're just going to go a completely different direction with the character. What people seem to want is to embrace this classic Superman, and so we're going to do that like wholeheartedly, like really fully.
Luke, well, it's
what have
all
your
a matter
thoughts
of
been
preference for what type of Superman you like.
Yeah.
Like personally, I like the more experienced Superman who's like been there, done that. He knows why he's doing what he does, but not everyone's a fan of that, as we've seen from the reactions to the DCEU. People like the more insecure and experienced Clark Kent growing up. But honestly, I got 10 years of that with Smallville. I'm pretty good with that for my life.
Yeah. That's true.
Right.
That's true. Luke, what have you thought about Supergirl so far?
So,
yeah.
Well, this is embarrassing. I did not watch it.
Damn. It's okay. I mean, that kind of saves us a little time here, but...
I've seen promos and stuff. It looks cool. But
if you get a chance, I recommend watching it.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the best lines to me thus far has been the what was it? It's like the thug tries to shoot him and nothing happens, and so he tries to punch him, and then he like breaks his hand, and Clark just lifts him up by like the collar, and is like, "I've never gotten that. The bullets don't work, so why the punching?" And then he like throws, he kind of like drops him, but so
that sounds like the Superman I'd appreciate.
They also have their obligatory Superman 1978 references in there. They have the reference to the climax of like the fault line in that, and they also have Miss Tessmacher as the new assistant of Kat in the first episode.
I love it.
That's pretty
so
good.
Great, so great.
Pretty
So
good.
Luke, which of the shows have you been watching? We'll talk about.
Can I just say one more thing
dealer's
before we
choice.
go into that?
Go ahead, absolutely.
So if we're doing like dating the characters, like Clark, they stated he doesn't really age all that much. It's why he looks so young despite so much time passing. But if he's roughly the same age as Cat Grant, we can assume that Lois is roughly that age too. So if they were ever to bring Lois on the show, they could actually have Terry Hatcher reprise the role because she's the same age as Cat Grant.
They could.
That's true.
Wow, that actually would be a really good idea. I'd love to see. That'd be a great nod.
Yeah.
So, Luke, what are your which of these shows do you want to talk about?
This is even more embarrassing.
No,
I actually haven't. Look, the thing is, with these shows coming out, this is a terrible time for these shows to come out because I am like in the Like, I'm at that point where I'm getting through, like, my senior year in college, and, like, I'm getting all this shit done. So I've been completely busy. I haven't really had time to catch up on any of this stuff. I've heard about the things that are happening. Stuff sounds really cool. The only problem is I haven't actually been able to watch it.
True. It's completely understandable. Thank you for making time to be on the podcast. But it's completely fine. I think I missed the most recent episode of Legends, but I tell you, I've been loving The Flash this season. I think Flashpoint disappointed me greatly, but then like the last couple of episodes have been really good, in my opinion.
No, yeah, Flashpoint was definitely the most lackluster of the three that's come out so far. Like, it was just a very tepid interpretation of it.
Yeah, it seemed like, I mean, it was Flashpoint in name only, kind of in core concept maybe, but like nothing else. None of the other trappings of Flashpoint, which is really kind of a bummer to me. Like, it's such a wasted, idea there. I feel like they really could have maybe used that as the crossover, or kind of had it as a long-running thing,
yeah.
But ultimately they decided to play it safe and just do the one episode.
I will say, one thing with it, I haven't been watching Arrow this season, outside of the bit that I saw with you guys when it first premiered. So I'm kind of curious how on Arrow they're going to explain how John now has a son instead of a daughter.
Flashpoint.
Are they going to reference Flashpoint on the unrelated show for it?
I think they basically are. Like, everything, Flash is just changing everything. Well, I mean, I honestly don't know. They might just use that. It's a good point. I honestly have not really been... I watched the first episode of Arrow, and we all drank through that.
I only saw half of it.
Too, at the time. Yeah, so, I mean, how much I remember, I'm not sure. Legends, to me, I caught, the first episode, and I'm going to watch, another one this week when it airs tomorrow, or not tomorrow, well, today, if you're listening to it on Thursday, thank you. But it's okay. I feel like it's starting better than season 1 started, but still, not really doing it for me like Flash and Supergirl have been so far.
Well, Flashpoint was a pretty weak start to the Flash too, so I'm going to give it a few episodes like that also.
I agree with that. Any more thoughts, Luke? Which one are you gonna watch first when you get a chance? Which one are you gonna?
You know what? I will probably watch Supergirl first because it has Superman in it, and everyone I've been looking at and hearing about has been telling me Superman is great in Supergirl, and B, it would probably give me incentive to finish the rest of season 1 since I think I stopped after episode 2. So
yeah, I still have to go back to season 1 to watch a few episodes of that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I caught up because it's all on Netflix now. But
should I watch the rest of season 1? Or can I just
so here's
watch
the thing.
2?
I think some people would say no. Some people would say don't worry about it. Dive right into it. I might be one of those people from a quality perspective, but I am just a completionist. I can't.
Okay.
If I'm watching something, I can't really do the jumping in and out thing. I've got to... It's not like OCD, because that belittles OCD, which is just honestly a completely horrifying thing that I can't even imagine. But it's more of I feel like I'm missing out. I feel like I've got to check the boxes,
Yeah. Honestly, I only saw the first 2 episodes like you did. I saw the Livewire episode and I saw part of the crossover, and I wasn't lost at all when I was watching the first 2 episodes this season.
It does seem like you're doing a little bit of a tonal reset on the show, but yeah, it's not a case where it's you're gonna miss anything or there's gonna be anything explicitly referenced, but yeah.
In episode 3 of Supergirl season 2,
she was wearing this colored hat.
Power Girl shows up and says, "Hey, Kara, welcome back." What the fuck? Power Girl's in season 1?
What the shit? All right,
damn it, CJ, I missed it.
It's okay. I told you to go back. No, you shitheel. So to round out this triumphant return episode, which we wasted 20 minutes of talking about a plot leak that's not real, let's move on to our viewer questions where we try to make it up for you. First things first, I'm going to handle this one, guys. Ryan Potter for Tim Drake. #yes. #Ryan for Tim Drake. all the way. That's Ryan bought it for Tim Drake in the DCEU, which, judging by our conversation before the episode, you guys didn't know was a thing. But
no, I did not.
No offense.
I didn't know anyone cared about Tim Drake.
I'm fairly confident Tim Drake is not a high on the priority list for the DCEU.
As we've stated previously, we're pretty sure Tim Drake is on nobody's priority list.
We force-triggered Lukel earlier this episode. You just force-triggered Josh. Like, he sat up as if, like, all of his hopes and dreams were just silenced.
To be fair, I think I triggered Josh also in my DCEU vid.
It's okay.
He didn't
Josh
say
is just in a constant triggered state.
He's just brooding now. So
he's constantly vibrating.
So that question, of course, is from longtime subscriber Exposure. Thank you for that question, bud. Now we've got a question from Cool Nerd RMG Geeked, who asks, "What superhero movie are you most excited for?" Can you guys think of one off the top of your head? For me, it's a little bit of a cop-out answer to say, but I'm going to say Doctor Strange, just because I've been looking forward to this since they announced that it was going to be a thing. I love the character and can't wait to actually see it in like 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to Rob's review. Tim, which superhero movie are you most excited for?
At the moment, probably Black Panther. It seems to have the most stuff stacked in its favor right now.
Oh, yeah. Great director, incredible cast, some great villains. I can't wait for that one either. That's a tough choice. Lukel.
The Metal Men movie coming out in
Metal
2020.
Men. Max Steel was your most anticipated, so I feel like you're having to scramble.
Yes.
No.
Can't wait for
Max Steel's already out.
It's already out.
I'm kind of glad you said Marvel stuffs.
Any DC movies?
I don't know, actually. I would have said Doctor Strange like about 2 months ago, but I mean, as the advertisement and stuff's about it's come out, I've just kind of been becoming decreasingly less excited for it.
Yeah.
I guess I'd probably go with Tim. I'd probably say Black Panther. That one, so far, the cast looks phenomenal from what we've seen so far.
Any DC movies catch your fancy? Because I feel like that was what the guy was fishing for. I think
sure
Wonder
that
Woman,
I'm sure
I'm
it
really
was.
Looking forward to, but
I guess Wonder Woman in terms of a DC stuff. That's probably because that one looks like the one that I would probably appreciate the most. I would say the Batman, but I mean, like I've seen.
It's
so
also
many
not
Batman
officially
movies.
announced.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, Wonder Woman. There's a trailer for it, so I'm excited for it.
This one, we'll start off with Tim for this question. Thanks for the question, RMG Geeked. Disciple of Fear, that's one of your boys, Luke. What would be the DC animated film of your dreams? Can be an adaptation or original story. I'll turn that into, just to keep it simple, is there any comic storyline in your head that jumps out, Tim, that you would love to see adapted into the DC animated universe?
Well, I'm already getting Judas' contract, so I'm fine with that.
Say,
but
that's the
probably, I think I've said this before, like, I want to see, like, an adaptation of Batman No Man's Land, but I prefer it to be, like, a mini-series instead of a movie, so they don't have to cut as much out.
Oh, yeah. Lukel. Any preferences?
Either Superman Red Sun or... You know what? I was gonna say Batman Nightfall, but I really would like to see an animated version of Kingdom Come.
So good. You literally took like my 3 of my top 4. I was gonna say Hush is another one that I'd love to see.
You know, come to think of it, Kingdom Come seems like it should have been done a while ago.
Yeah.
So did
that
Judas'
might be another
contract, but look, we're getting that now.
Yeah, well, now we get it with Damien.
You wait your 8 years like I did.
I'm going to say, like, my dreams, Kingdom Come is one of them, Nightfall is one of them. I would love to see Red Sun. That's my favorite graphic novel of all time. I just love it. It's, like, my 2 favorite things. Comics and alternate history, like, rolled into one.
And communism.
And
Superman. Communism. But let me tell you, if anybody out there has not read... If anyone's not read Red Sun, pause the podcast, go read it. The twist alone is worth it. The twist at the end alone is absolutely worth the cost of the book. So incredibly inventive. I loved it. I'm just going to talk about it for a while. As far as like adaptations that I feel like could naturally fit in the universe they're setting up, I feel like they could do a DC animated version of Grayson. I was going to say the first run, but basically that entire Grayson storyline, because it was just more or less like a bunch of different arcs, but one major through line for the entire book. But I feel like that could work. It could be streamlined. But so that actually is the end of viewer questions. If you want to see your question featured on the next episode of Super Friends, just use the hashtag AskSuperFriends either on Twitter or, of course, in the comments section. We always make an effort to ask them each and every week. Any final thoughts before we close out the episode, guys?
If I had one more choice for an animated film, I want an ending to the 2003 Teen Titans series.
Oh, yes. I kind of want to see what the end for, like, Young Justice was going to be, because that was left really in a bad place, too. But, sad.
Comics were a mistake.
Well, on that cheerful note, that is going to bring us to the end of Super Friends episode number 52. Aren't you guys so proud I went through the entire episode without doing the stupid bit where I forget the episode number? I'd like to thank my guests, Luke, of course, the longtime recurring series regular, and Tim for joining us for his very first time. You really held your own, dude. I'm so proud.
Oh, thank you.
Of all of us for
all those spotlights have prepared you for this moment.
They have all those spotlights and the bi-monthly MCU vids that you're responsible for. But damn, that brings us to the end of 52. It's been an entire year's worth of podcasts, except for the fact that we missed episodes and then took a month off because we're lazy fucks. You'll find out what that's all about very, very shortly, though. No spoilers. But signing off for Luke and Tim, this is CJ, and we'll see you next week.